Here, 4 will move on to the national championships. Very, very exciting here. So the race for the top 4 positions, very important here. Very, very exciting racing coming down the line. So as soon as we can get some better placements for you, we will absolutely do that. Again, we want to thank you very much for your patience while our drone is down.
Yeah, it might just be my silly angle, but I want to say that I think Everett and perhaps Sammamish are doing the dirty on this one.
No, you are absolutely right about that. And you know what? I'm actually going to give the lead to Sammamish.
Okay, great.
But do not overlook Everett on the outside because they are very, very close, followed by Mount Baker as well. So Mount Baker really making a charge on that outside lane. I love it when an outside lane sneaks up on those middle lanes because a lot of times those middle lanes forget that there's somebody out there.
Totally, yeah. And I love time trial racing to set up these formats for novices too, because typically novices, like you mentioned earlier with novices, like not really knowing the gears and not being as self-aware. So they might learn things in the time trial process that teaches all new speed for, semis and finals to follow. So really, like, the time trials aren't going to indicate the maximum level of performance. And right now, it's looking like a pretty close race for second and third.
Come down to the shore for this one. Do not miss this Sammamish. Let's see, who is it?
I think Sammamish is in the lead, and I think on the other side is Everett grappling with Mount Baker. Is that Green Lake?
Yep.
Okay. Green Lake and Mount Baker grappling it out, folks, for second and third. Meanwhile, this Sammamish novice crew closest to us is, wow, they just ricocheted across the line.
Exactly. Look at the move from this Green Lake crew.
Dang, yeah, Green Lake just took it up.
Absolute units here coming across the line. What a move from Green Lake to edge out Mount Baker on the outside. And there you go, your top 3 finishers. However,
tiny race for
Rose
fourth
City
and fifth
here. What is this?
Yeah, Rose City and Everett.
Lane 5, Rose City taking that 4th place position, followed by Everett. And you can see the GoPros on the heads, the cheering here, the coxswain seats, the banging of the gunnels there. These crews are very excited to finish in these top 4 places. And rounding out our field here will be Lane 6, Bainbridge, and Lane 4, Lakeside. What a race.
Big ups to that Green Lake crew racing it in for second. It seemed like in the past, or in the last 20 strokes or so, they kicked it into a higher gear and really just demolished Mount Baker beside them, who I think was giving them a tough time earlier on in the race from what we were seeing. Hats off to those crews, though. That was some great novice racing for a novice 8 to finish with the 6:44 is pretty impressive.
Exactly, and I will be a little bit kind to Mount Baker here. Instead of saying they were completely demolished, I want to say they did the best they could. They were very, very close holding off Green Lake, but Green Lake just edged them out again, stroked by Kai Hermosia. Very well done. Kai takes a special stroke seat, I think, to kind of recognize what is happening with that Mount Baker crew. So I'm actually glad you pointed that out because I think it takes a stroke seat with a little bit of an X factor to recognize what's actually happening there so they didn't get overtaken by Mount Baker and decided to go. So I don't know if it was Kai or the coxswain that decided to make that move.
Yeah.
But if it was Kai here, keep that guy in the stroke seat because that was a phenomenal move. And that crew backed him up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were here for him 100%. Because when a strokeman does that, it's gutsy, and you really do have to have faith in the folks behind you that they're going to bring up the rate as well. Because if you're just up there in stroke seat taking the rate up, but the people behind you aren't following, you're going to get a lot of pain really quickly because when you're out of step with your boat, you feel the rhythm of what everybody else is doing working against you. And so everything from like your joints to your muscles start to feel this kind of resistance. And luckily that wasn't the case today, but that was the outcome that he, I'm sure, was worried about if they didn't stay aware and have the wherewithal to bring up the rate as well at exactly the right moment for exactly the strokes when he needed them to. Very impressive, especially for novices.
Exactly. It takes a lot of maturity and a lot of trust to trust that stroke seat to be able to say, you know what, no, we do need to go right now, and I'm going to take my crew with me. So again, very well done to those crews. That was a very exciting race. I do love novice racing.
Yeah. And we're seeing some medals already being allocated to the left of our announcer's tent, just to give you folks playing along at home an idea of the scene. It is so fun and joyful when boats come and all collectively get their medals and their trophy, and parents are taking pictures and coaches are smiling, and I'm sure very proud. So that's happening now. We've already had some A finals, and so that means that medals are being sent home. There's hardware to be earned, and potentially some clinkage, as we call it, when people double up in multiple events and then have the good fortune to medal in both of those events. They have 2 medals dangling around their necks. Occasionally it clinks, and we call it clinkage. And it's sort of like max bliss in the rowing world when
Technical
you can come
term.
to a competition. Yeah, very technical term. Giving you all the inside scoops into sort of the oddities and the peculiarities of our culture. And rowing is such a fun, unique culture, and something that I find myself reflecting on periodically each time that I get to enjoy this sport and the community behind it.
That's right. And speaking of enjoying this sport, let's go back to the starting line and enjoy another final of the men's youth novice 8.
All right.
In lane 2, Mount Baker. Lane 3, Oregon Rowing Unlimited. Lane 4, Sammamish. Lane 5, Mount Baker B. Lane 6, Green Lake. And lane 7, Sammamish C. So we have Sammamish B and Sammamish C in here, so we will try to keep those straight as we get going.
It's very interesting, too, that they are utilizing lane 7, but not lane 2 in this race. So there are technically 6 lanes that have been buoyed off here on this course, just for everybody's awareness. But sometimes they're throwing a boat either to the left or to the right of the furthest lane and calling it a 7th lane, which works, and it's totally fine, and that's within regulation. But sometimes instead of populating all 6 lanes, it seems as though they're populating lanes 2 through 6 and then adding that 7th lane, which is the case here, and that's kind of peculiar. So
right, you will see that sometimes you'll see a lane 0 bow marker number for that lane 7 sometimes. So sometimes a 7, sometimes a 0. Sometimes one of those outside lanes can be used as a launch lane, like a chase launch lane. So there are many reasons that they will shift lanes over, but this is a 6-boat race.
Yeah, and we're already getting some telephoto pictures from the shore, which is helpful. And I think that right now we're looking at potentially...
Yeah, it's very, very hard to tell, very difficult to tell from this angle. But
I'm liking
potentially that third boat over Sammamish B. So stroked by Owen Larkin. Again, I'm going to give that...
This boat is the boat all the way over on your right is starting to veer into that Sammamish line, though. So I'm not sure if they're close enough to cause any clash of their blades, but okay, never mind. They've course corrected. Now they're headed back into their own lane, but
that would be Mount Baker in lane 2. In the middle of them is Oregon Rowing Unlimited. Fun to see them out in a big boat here. We've seen them in a lot of small boats so far, so it's great to see them out here in a big boat again. But I think... right now, I am going to look at Sammamish and potentially Green Lake in lane 6 on the outside as potentially a second leader here. But again, our views are so deceiving here from so far down the course, looking nearly straight on, that we will do our best to keep you abreast with all of the latest and greatest as we come down the course.
Ooh, that was a good rhyme.
Thank you.
Way to go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had that one ready for weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah. Kidding. My rhymes are terrible. You are the master of that here.
False.
However, it's looking still like our first and second lanes, which are actually lanes 2 and 3. So Oregon Rowing Unlimited and Mount Baker still potentially in the lead with Green Lake B again on that outside. So you got to watch those outside lanes. I'm excited to see if we can get a Mount Baker and Green Lake battle
that'd be great.
going on those outside lanes, because Green Lake in lane 6 is really going to have to keep an eye on Mount Baker in lane 1 because, again, those outside lanes, you have got to watch out for them.
Yeah. I am really I'm not surprised, but I'm excited by the fact that Oregon Rowing Unlimited is fielding 8s, because typically they've just been sculling. This might be the first year that they're doing sweep events, to be honest. Don't quote me on that, but I don't recall ever having seen an 8 fielded by Oregon Rowing Unlimited. So that's kind of exciting. Growing programs, expanding into new spaces and places, and we'll see if they can produce results similar to what they have in the quads. They've clearly got a lot to be gained.
Yeah, exactly. They have done a phenomenal job here. Just raced at the Covered Bridge Regatta, which was the highlight of their spring season so far. They had 51 boats placing out of a total of 66 entries at the prestigious Covered Bridge Regatta, hosted by Orr, another crew here. So very, very exciting. Clearly, Oregon Rowing Unlimited is creating quite a pedigree, and they are definitely putting a stamp on their name at many of these regattas here again at the regionals, showing up again and again and again. We just keep hearing their names. We can't get rid of them. Not that we want to, because they're giving us great racing and great entertainment here.
Yeah.
It is so exciting to see them out here in big boats, small boats. Really, really giving us some great rowing to watch.
Yeah, it looks like Sammamish is in the lead. I'm going to say open water. Looks like they have open water. Yeah.
I think you're right. Now, they have opened up water just a little bit, but let's keep an eye on this race for second, third, and fourth.
Yeah, that might be a good race developing for the minor medals.
Yeah, you're right. I think that is definitely going to be Mount Baker C on the outside.
Okay.
But very, very close. Again, it's a little bit deceiving on this side. I'm going to give lane 6 and 7 the next 2 spots. That would be Green Lake and Sammamish C.
Yeah.
So we have Sammamish and Sammamish in the top 4.
It's also interesting because there's some orange blades on the far side of the course who I think belong to North Cascades, but there isn't a North Cascades boat. So I wonder if maybe they're borrowing blades. Actually, that might make sense. That might be Oregon Rowing Unlimited.
Correct.
And since they don't typically do sweeping, they probably hijacked some North Cascade blades.
Exactly.
Causing commentator confusion.
But right now, we have lane 4 coming across the line, Sammamish.
Yes.
As our leader, you see the hands go up in the air. But look at this race
I think
for
Oregon
second.
Rowing Unlimited just got rowed out of second by Green Lake.
Green Lake,
Don't
absolutely.
quote me on that, but we'll wait for the times. And I think Sammamish took 4th.
I agree with you. I'm unofficially still going to give Green Lake, and then barely edging out that Mount Baker crew on the outside.
Some jubilant screams of excitement here after the finish line. Really, really fun to see.
It's so hard not to love novice racing.
Yeah, so much
passion.
excitement. Yeah, oh man. There really is something special about the excitement. Once you've been rowing a while, finishing a race is kind of no big deal, whatever. You just kind of spin it around onto the next. But these are perhaps some of their first races, and it's so cool just to see the abject stoke that these dudes are experiencing right now.
I'm going to push back on that just a teeny bit. I still love winning races.
Totally. Right on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And depends on which one, too. Some, obviously, the stakes are a bit higher, and so it's a little bit more. So I tease. But here we go, rounding out our field now, finishing up the Novice 8. Looks like our Mount Baker crew, they're coming across the line.
Nice job,
in
Mount
lane
Baker.
2 on the far side.
Yeah.
So,
from what I understand, Mount Baker had a tough time during the pandemic with both recruitment and retention of athletes. I mean, a lot of teams did, but Mount Baker is actually run through the park system, the Seattle park system down there. And so I think that it was tougher for a lot of government run organizations to pivot as swiftly as maybe the private organizations. In government, there's a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. I'm a federal government employee in my real job, and I can tell you that it sometimes takes a lot of doing to get things pivoted. And COVID, I think, took a really heavy toll on youth athletics across the board, but especially for some of those programs that maybe couldn't pivot quite as well. But moral of the story is that I am so heartened to see Mount Baker back in force, especially with big novice classes, because it means that we can expect to see more from them in the years to come. So best of luck to Mount Baker with their recruitment and retention of these new freshman year classes, and hopefully more to come from them in the years to follow.
Yeah, and I might be aging myself a little bit here, as I tend to do on these things, but back in my day in college, which was not too long ago, I'm not a fossil yet, but Mount Baker was a very, very strong program.
Yeah.
We actually got a lot of athletes down in Southern California from Mount Baker,
Oh,
from
wow.
Sammamish, and they were incredibly strong programs up here. So like you said, really great to see them out here.
Yeah.
And it's looking like we already have some crews out on the course. Again, our drone is still down just a little bit as we keep it out of the rain and protect it. But we are seeing boats on the course now.
Yepers, I think that next race.